there's a TV show, a cable TV show called Hell on Wheels. It takes place back in the 1800s, and we were asked to do some music for it. And we had to use instruments that were around in the 1800s, which precluded anything electric. Everything had to be acoustical. And all the time we'd been together, it's hard to believe, but we had never done an all acoustical. Everybody playing all acoustical instruments, no electricity. We were so surprised, pleasantly surprised by the outcome and the way the band sounded that way, that we decided to do an album. Big Bob Dylan fan. I think I've always had in the back of my head doing something, doing some Dylan stuff. I've recorded a couple of things through the years, but not a whole album. So we started picking songs and went in and recorded it. It's all acoustic. It's called Off the Grid because it's not electric, it's acoustic. And Doing It Dylan because it's 10 Bob Dylan tunes. We just picked songs that we could put our mark on. We treated it almost like new material. I did not want to copy an arrangement that he had done, or even the people who had covered his music had done. I wanted it to be a totally fresh approach to the Dylan tunes. And that was a criteria. When we find a song that we didn't feel like we could put our mark on, I wanted to do Lay Lady Lay, which is one of my favorite Dylan songs that we recorded on Nashville Skyline. I really wanted to do that song, but I could not find an arrangement. The quintessential arrangement for that song was on that record, and I can't hear the song without it. We tried several different ways, so we just had to finally bypass it and go on to something else. And of course, the great thing with doing Bob Dylan stuff, you never run out of material. That well is so deep. So when we'd come across a song we didn't feel like we could kind of, put our mark on, we just leave it and go on to something else. I can't just pick one. It's hard to do. I think when people hear You Gotta Serve Somebody and Tangled Up in Blue, I think that's probably, if they got any preconceived notions about how it's going to be, because you've heard it the same way for so long, that I think you'll be very surprised by the arrangement that we did on it. I met Bob Dylan when we did Nashville Skyline. I had never met him until I walked in the studio to do the album, to play on his album. I was only supposed to play on one session, the first session, and as it worked out, I got to play on all of them and went on to do 2 more albums with him, the Self Portrait New Morning. He had so much press, and people were trying to, like he was very eccentric, like he was this unapproachable genius that was reclusive and, had very little to do with people and stuff. That was a bunch of bunk. And when I went in the studio, this guy was so down to earth. He was having fun. He had a sense of humor. He was conversational. It's just great to be around, and that was the tone of the album. We had fun. There was about 15 sessions booked to do that album, and I forget how many we used, but it was not near all of them because it just flowed. It just went. It just happened. He'd come out with a song, and everybody kind of gather around and get started. And first thing you know, he had a cut on it. There's a song I did called Caroline, I Remember You, that I did on the Full Moon album, I think it was. I'm from North Carolina, and I wrote just a piece of prose that basically described what it was like growing up at the time that I grew up in North Carolina. I was born in 1936, and my early memories were, what starts out, first thing I remember, frosty Carolina mornings with a cheery fire crackling in my mama's big black wood cook stove. I remember snowflakes as big as goose feathers, and the moon the color of new-made country butter, and a night sky like diamonds against black velvet reaching from horizon to horizon. And it goes on. And then later on, that was just my remembrances of growing up in Carolina, what it was like. Then later on, I wrote a song called Caroline, I Remember You. And oddly enough, it's kind of an odd thing that happened. We were in the studio, we'd ordered a chord, and we were putting some violins, putting strings on it. And I can't read music. I went out and told the arranger, the guy that was doing the conductor, I said, have your players on a certain part of their arrangement, have them double their notes. Make a half note a whole note, and quarter note a half note, so on and so forth. And let's see what we come out with. And they did. And it worked. I read my recitation on top of it, and it worked perfectly. The flow of the thing, it really underscored what I was saying. It had a melancholy sort of feel to it. And it underscored this reminiscing type thing that I was coming along with, and we put it together with the song. As the recitation ends, the song begins, and the song's pretty reminiscent too. And it worked out to be a really nice piece of music. And there's songs like that that mean a lot to me because they elicit memories that, from a long time ago. Things have changed a lot. I've seen a lot of change in my lifetime. But things were, at least in my life, I guess because I was so young and my mom and dad shouldered all the burdens, I had nothing to worry about. It was a very simple, way to live. I was fortunate to be born in small towns, and raised in small towns and in the country. And I learned about, it was in a day when you could drink water out of the branches, and a lot of dirt roads, and a lot of people still driving horses and wagons on the roads. And it was just it was a different day and a different time. And it's, those songs seem to kind of elicit some memories that basically take me back. If I stop and ponder, they take me back to that time. And it's pretty nice to think about because it was a different world.